Today, I wanted to talk to you about the KSA Bridge, and that's a mechanism that I use for my clients to help people to identify where they are now and where they want to be. What we do using the KSA Bridge is we understand what's in that gap. So if they are here and they want to be here, we talk about what is in that gap. Is it a knowledge gap? Is it a skills gap? Or is it an action gap? And once we identify what that gap is, then we can start to look to see what is needed to be able to bridge that gap. So a lot of coaching is about you're here and you want to be here, and a coach will support you to get there as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But in any of those conversations, whether it's with a coach or not, you want to be able to identify what that gap is, and then you can identify how to bridge that gap in the most efficient and effective way as possible. So we don't want to assume that it's always a skill issue, because often it can be a mindset or a belief or an attitude that is holding us back. So we want to use the framework to assess so that we don't assume. So that's the first thing, is to ask yourself that question. If I am here and I want to get here, what is in that gap? Is it a knowledge gap? So do I need more information? Is it a skill gap? So I need to learn how to do something. Or is it an action gap? So I do have the skills and I do have the knowledge. I need to take the action. And if I'm not taking action, what is holding me back? Is it mindset? Is it self-doubt? Or is it something else? So these have to be very honest conversations that we have with ourselves. This is where coaching can often help, because coaches will ask different questions. And the value of our answers is very much dependent on the value of the questions. So ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself, what is in that gap? Is it knowledge? Is it skills? Or is it action? So you may not need more courses. You might need the right one. So if it's a knowledge gap, then you need to understand what knowledge is missing. What do you already know? And this might not be about what you know confidently. It's what you need to learn to help you to get to where you want to go. And sometimes, and this is what we were talking about in the community the other week, we procrastinate and we procrastinate. So we're avoiding taking action by convincing ourselves that we need to learn more. Now, I love learning. Weirdly, I didn't enjoy school particularly. I'd found learning in a classroom environment quite difficult, but actually learning where I can implement and I can use the learning straight away, I really enjoy. And certainly, I think with my background from the public sector, where, policing, you've got 20 years of incredible experience, but no real certificate to show. I think sometimes from a public sector perspective, we think that we need to do more courses to get that certificate to evidence what we've already been doing and what we already are capable of. So I think it's worth asking that question of whether or not there is a knowledge gap or whether it's a confidence gap, because what we don't want to do is avoid taking action by convincing ourselves that we need to learn more or that we need a certificate. Now, if it is a genuine knowledge gap, we need to be very specific about the knowledge that we need to learn to know which course is the right one for us. Sometimes our personal growth or our professional growth doesn't always mean adding. Sometimes it means applying what you already know, and that's your skills and your action. And that's using the knowledge and the skills to take action. So I also want to mention that skills can be sharpened, but only with action. So when we've got the knowledge and we've got the skills, we do need to be able to take that action to be able to make sure that we become a master in that skill. So we need to have that deliberate use, we need to get feedback, and we need to take action consistently. So often when I'm having conversations with people, the action gap isn't that they haven't taken any action at all. Quite often it's inconsistent action. And or it's sporadic action. So we want to make sure that when we have the skills, that we recognize the skills that we have, and whether or not we need more skills or we need to develop the skills that we already have. So we don't need to be perfect. We often need to practice. So you may well have heard me say before, practice makes permanent. It doesn't make perfect. But when we practice, we build that evidence base that helps us to build that confidence in our ability. So the more we're taking action, the more we're building that evidence that tells us that we can, that helps to build that inner confidence. So courage comes before confidence. We can't wait until we feel ready. We build that skill by taking action. And so understanding if we've got the knowledge and we have the skill, even if we're feeling it's very limited or we're not feeling confident in that skill, the best way to change that is not more knowledge and not more skills that sit around it, but to take those steps and start to utilize that skill as much as possible, because that's what's going to help it to develop and for it to grow and for you to become more confident in taking action in more situations. So often mindset is the bridge. And this often comes through in the element of taking action. And when I first started using this framework, or when I first put this framework together, I did consider putting mindset in there as its own question. But for me, in the majority of the questions that and conversations that I have with clients and within the community, it comes under action. So often the beliefs that we hold will drive how we think, how we feel, and the action that we take. So if we're not taking action, quite often it's because we have a belief that is holding us back. But we also need to think about, in general, that mindset, in general, that approach of how we think and how we feel about things. We also want to challenge those beliefs that are potentially holding us back. But we also want to think about the identity that we want to step into to be able to use the knowledge and the skills that we have. So we need to think about how we're thinking about ourselves. Are we talking about ourselves like we are the kind of person who does this? If you're new in business or your business is new, then you need to be acting as if. You want to be taking action as if your business is established. You want to be speaking as if your business has grown and has developed. So you want to be adopting and bringing in that future identity so that you're working on who you're becoming, not just what you are doing. So the skills and knowledge are kind of in the toolkit, but who you are becoming to use those skills and to use that knowledge is another bit of work again. And I talked about this the other week. So if you missed that live where I talked about identity, you can always head over to the YouTube channel and watch that back. So we talked about identity, especially for those of you in that growth stage where that can be so important. But having the right mindset turns our capabilities into consistent action. We need to drive the beliefs and the identity that help us to become the person who takes the consistent action, the person who has that courage to try things when they're new and when they're messy and when it's not all figured out yet. So we want to check what is holding us back from taking the action. What's stopping us from being more consistent with that action? Is it discipline? If we are holding ourselves from being more consistent and we are procrastinating, why? Why are we holding ourselves back? So we need to really check in with that internal dialogue. What is it telling us? What is it that we are believing to be true? What's the story that we are telling ourselves that's quite possibly an old story that's no longer helping? And the fifth point is to audit regularly. So growth isn't a one-time event. The KSA Bridge is a regular reflection tool. So it's not a question that you just ask yourself once, and once you've identified it, you that's it. done? This is a question you want to be asking yourself regularly, each month, potentially even each week. I've shared the PIPS questions that I use with clients in the community to help them set themselves up for the week. And within that, the KSA Bridge is a regular reflection tool. So if we're working on something this week, if we've got a priority task that we want to get done, then we need to ask ourselves, what do I need to make happen for that to happen? Now, the obvious one will be that it's taking action, but sometimes we need to think about whether or not we need to bring in some knowledge, or we need to kind of dust off an old skill and bring that out to make it happen. But also, as we grow and as we evolve, we'll be needing more knowledge, we'll be needing more skills, not just using the existing ones that we have. So this needs to be a regular question. So your next breakthrough in terms of where you are now to where you want to get to might not be a new strategy. It might actually be a new belief about what is possible. It might be a new way of thinking. And again, a coaching question I often ask people is, what's a more helpful way to think about this? What do you need to believe is true for this to happen? So think about one goal that you're working on right now and ask yourself whether or not the gap is knowledge, whether it's skill, or whether it's taking action. And I would love to hear in the comments what you've identified. Because the next question then is, what do you need to do next? Now you've identified what the gap is, what do you need to do to be able to bridge that gap? And that's a question for you to take away this week.